So recently I got together with my friend Austin Zagar to discuss my new book Low, which is available in hardcover and softcover versions. He's a fellow local racine photographer who I appreciate his work and the way he shoots. He shoots a lot on film, does a lot of cool landscape stuff. Every time him and I have sat down and talked about photography, I always enjoy the conversation with him. So I thought it'd be really cool if he reviewed my book and then, we sit down and discuss anything he wanted to about the book. That's what you're about to watch. I also flipped through the book to show y'all what's all included in it. So stay tuned. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you click the links below to check out more on the book. You can purchase it. Make sure you check out Austin's work. It's really cool stuff. Make sure you follow us on social media. And yeah, check this out. Stay tuned. Talk to y'all later. Peace. The book Low came out recently, my new book. We came here to talk about that. I really wanted you to check it out because I appreciate the way you photograph and what you do, and it's very different from me. But the conversations we've had about photography, it's like I always like talking to you about it. You're someone who's really into photography. You're kind of like how I always say about myself. You're like a photography nerd, and I say that with respect.
Thank you.
No disrespect at all.
Absolutely.
And I wanted your take on that because I just, like I said, I appreciate how you see things and the way you shoot things. And so now that you've had some time to sit with it, what do you think about it? And let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, I think the first thing I noticed through my first time actually going through the book, I really realized it is like a journey in a sense. Like, and I remember when we first talked about it, that was kind of your first. That was what you kind of first said to me, was like, this is like my journey through like the culture of like lowriders and everything. And then I remember you were saying, like I kind of, I incorporated a lot into the book, but you didn't tell me much. So it was kind of nice too to, the first time I read it, I was able to see what type of poetry was put in there that went along with the photos. And I feel like from start to finish, it's really well done with how like the poetry lines up with the photos, and then by the end, it's kind of like telling you like this is our culture, this is who we are. And I thought that was like the best way of doing it, because it wasn't like look, this is what we are, look, look over here, like somebody jumping up waving their hands. It was more like no, like I'm really involved in the culture. This isn't like I'm not pretending that like I'm in this, like this is what I am. And it comes off so natural as you go through the book. And then the photos are stunning, they're beautiful. I mean, the way that you shot them, I mean, like it was a very good surprise. Like it was very nice. It was very nice to look at something and don't know what I'm really supposed to expect when you first told me. And it was nice that you didn't tell me anything, because then the expectation wasn't there. Like I was able to create like my own the moment I got to go through it. So that to me was really huge. And I just really loved, man, the way that you just brought everything that you've been through with the culture itself, like your journey, the way you brought it out, the way you presented it, like it showed your appreciation and your love for it. And I thought that was the first thing that I just really was like, wow, like this. He took beautiful photos. He has this wonderful poetry, and he has people that are also surrounded with it. I'm assuming that the two ladies who did poetry, they're also involved and around that culture, because of the way that they talk about it too. Yeah. And the way that they write about it. Yeah, like you could really get that sense out of it. So yeah, it was amazing. And I just really think that you really hit it on the head, or the nail on the head, or whatever you say. I think you just really hit it, and you did a great job. It's wonderful. It's great work.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's definitely my journey because like the photos in the back of the book, I wrote how those photos started off in about 2014 or 15. I'd have to look again to see like the dates on those first photos that were from San Antonio car show.
Okay.
And there's a couple of ones that are featured, like the full page ones, but most of them are, I think a couple of them are like background photos only. And then the first few car shows that I shot in Texas, there wasn't a whole lot down there. There was like maybe 2 or 3 in San Antonio, and then there was 1 or 2 in Dallas. and then everything after that is Chicago. So I mean, it is a journey. It's the journey of like those years that not only was I first really getting into trying to shoot car photography, lowrider photography, just like, you know, my first real takes at trying to do it right.
Mm.
Because I had done some photography with it when I was younger, like way long time ago, but I mean, I was just, you know, using whatever camera I could get my hands on. It wasn't anything serious. And so, yeah, it was me learning photography while also learning how to shoot these cars. And so it is a journey that way through like my own, I guess, development as a photographer.
Yeah.
And then also just kind of getting more into the culture and just getting more, just throwing myself into it more, you know?
Right. And I think it's interesting too, because I know you, in the book you say, you know, when I was little growing up, and this I think you said the early 90s, maybe 93, 94,
Yeah.
and you said that your cousin had a book on his dresser, and you kind of just were like, you know, like, what is this? You know,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really cool. And, you know, can you kind of like just explain that more? I mean, that's interesting to me.
Yeah, that's pretty much where like I got into the culture. Because I had seen like lowrider cars before that, like just going to like the Mexican Fiesta show in Milwaukee. They would always have like a car show on Saturday.
Okay.
And so I would see cars there, but it wasn't a thing to me. It was just like, oh, that's a cool custom car. You know, it just wasn't like, I wasn't thinking about it in any serious way before that. But then, yeah, like I always used to go to my cousin's houses during the summer times. We'd just go hang out or whatever. And I remember going into his room that day, and right there on the dresser, this is one of my older cousins, a few years older than me, and he had you know, the newest lowrider just sitting there on the dresser, and I hadn't seen him before, and he's a little older, so he knew all about all this stuff. And I saw the magazine there, and it's this crazy car, you know, all tricked out, and a beautiful, you know, model with the car and all that. And, you know, me being 12, 13-year-old boy, whatever it was, like, you got a cool car and a beautiful woman, like, of course I'm attracted to that. It's like, what is this, you know? And so I grab it, and just like that, you know, I asked him, like, well, what is this? And he, you know, I'd never seen the magazine before, and he tells me what it is, and I was like, yeah, I just start thumbing through it, and as he's kind of telling me, you know, like, whatever, I don't remember what he was saying, because I was just like looking at it at that point. It just kind of like, it just captivated me, you know. And after that, I remember like I would go with my dad every now and then, so like, you know, auto parts store or something, and I would always look, you know, because they have, back in the days at least, they would always have like a magazine section.
Right.
And so I'm looking, and I would see, you know, Lowrider or other magazines, and I would always like try to get the newest copy. And then after a while, it just became like, I'm gonna have a subscription, and I had a subscription for like the longest time. And so yeah, I just got into looking at the magazines and into the culture and wanting to learn more about it just through that first experience with my cousin's magazine. And it was soon after that they came out with Lowrider Bicycle magazine.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
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 And so it was you know, me being at that age where I was too young for a car, definitely couldn't afford it anyway. You know, it's like having a bike was the next thing. So yeah, like I right away was like, I need to build a bike. And I ended up making that happen. I built a few bikes. So
with your layout, I noticed that, like, you know, if you're not paying attention, you can miss things. And I like that. You know, like, so when I first read and went through your book, like, I had like an idea of it, and then when I read it and viewed it my second time, I was like, oh shit, like I missed, like, even like the bold letters where it transitions from the white to like the bottom part where it's like, where like it blends in with the background. Even that was like, I just like, for some reason my eyes didn't see that at first, but it's cool going back and like and seeing that and then realizing like, oh, okay, like, okay, this is here. And then even like when you have, you know, the two photos and then you have the hood of a car, you know, in the background, and it's faded perfect enough to where it's not like, look at me, and then you have a problem, you know, like, especially if you're in a book, you know, you're like, I'm looking at this, but I can also see the hood, and it's kind of like, it might be distracting, but man, like you did it so perfect, and in such a way that it's like a pleasure to view. And how much thought went into that for you? Like how long did that take you, you know?
That was a lot, man. The text probably took longer than anything to like. Well, you've seen the proof copy
Yeah.
and also the final copy.
Yes.
And there's a big difference between like the text used.
Oh yeah.
together.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, the text definitely took more time than anything. Going into it, I knew putting it together, I did not want it to just be like a regular photo book where it's like a regular white sheet with a photo in it, and then like you just flipping pages looking at photo,
Right.
photo like that. And so like I knew I wanted the photos to kind of be like the way I wanted them to look is just like I wanted to really just pull you into it. I wanted you to just like really feel it. And so I felt like having that kind of white space would kind of block that a little bit. And so yeah, with the photos that I used, a lot of them are like tight, close, detail kind of shots. And I wanted you to feel that. And I wanted you to kind of feel the cars that way. Or with the ones where I was layering things, it was just about playing with it and just thinking about like the paint jobs and how so many different things are thrown into those paint jobs and they're layered up and you just have layer upon layer of pinstripes over different patterns and things like that and murals and stuff like that. And so I wanted it to feel that way. And so like using multiple photos on top of multiple photos and stuff like that, like I don't know, I just had that vision of that. Like I didn't want it to look like a regular photo book. I really wanted it to just feel custom like that, like the cars do. I wanted it to
Like that.
like you were saying before we started recording how I use like the red cars on a blue background.
Right.
I really wanted to like play with like color that way too.
And it's nice. It's nice on the eye. Like it's nice to visually look at it and just kind of be drawn into it. And then, you look at one photo and then your eye will begin to wander off into this next photo. And even though they're similar, they're different too at the same time. And I'd say they're very inspiring because it's kind of like looking at something in a panoramic view without it being in a panoramic view in a sense. Like it's like kind of seeing what's going on around this car and then this car and then this car and I just personally like it was inspiring to look at. I mean, it was really I had a really good time like just viewing that. I mean, that was the most exciting part about me for the book was like the layout in that way, and like the way that even though you're saying like the close up of the hood of a car, and then like it's kind of faded out in the back, and then you got the two photos. I mean, like even that. I mean, like that's so well thought out, and that's unique, and that's your style. And it's something I've never really looked at. I can't even lie to you. Like it's nothing I've really ever looked at.
That's good because I definitely want it to be something like I said different.
Yeah.
And in thinking about like what you're talking about, like I'm thinking of the layout of two photos of Becca on the left and the right page, and then the background you got the hood of the car. It's like a grayish and orangish color.
Yep.
Thinking about that, like in the way I kind of saw that in my head. For one, I love to take photos of the details of the paint because those painters are true artists, and so like catching the details of the car that way to me is like, it's showing respect to them and for what they do. It's so beautiful to me. I've watched videos of like painters taping off cars and layering the patterns and setting them up, and it's just like, it's something that I can't. It just blows my mind.
It's like, how do you see that in your head, and then like get down to it, and then you just like
exactly
like it's crazy.
And so the way I saw like that layout was a lot of times I've seen this on numerous cars where they'll split the hood, left half, right half, and they'll have like the same patterns kind of like on each side, or like I've seen it where they split each side and they've got one mural going this way on this one and another mural going this way on this one, and they complement each other in some way.
Right.
And so that's kind of the way I saw the photos of Becca with the hood like that. Was I wanted it to kind of feel like that, where I'm putting a mural in the middle of the hood like that,
Yeah. Oh, It definitely stands out. I mean, but like in the best way possible. I mean, it really is. And I wanted to ask you this too. Did you put the back of that Impala on the front cover and the front of that Impala on the back cover on purpose? Like, did you switch those up on purpose, or is that just something I'm noticing? Like, you know, that.
Yeah, no, that was definitely intentional.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was I had a different photo for the cover.
Mm.
And I really liked that photo, and I kind of regret not using it anywhere in the book. I didn't end up using it.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know how to do. Once I had that on the front, it looked great with the logo and everything. The way I had it placed, it looked great. But I didn't know how to. I didn't have anything good to go for the back cover,
Okay.
and I didn't want to use just like a plain back. I wanted another photo. And I couldn't match it up with anything else that I really liked.
Okay.
And every photo in the book, except for maybe a couple of the background photos, are all, like I said, between like 2014 and 2020, except those two photos.
Well,
The front and back photos,
Yeah.
those were taken last year actually.
Oh, nice.
And I kind of like, I almost didn't want to use them because they weren't from that same time period. And I was really like stuck on at first on using only photos in that time
Right.
period. But then I was just like, it looks good. Just don't fight it. Just
No, it does. It does look good. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm glad you did it because it really does look good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm every other photo, like I said, for the most part, is in that time period except for those two. So it was definitely intentional. Maybe one day I'll use the other photo I had.
Maybe if you make a second.
Yeah.
If you make a
Well, there is going to be a second at some point.
Okay, second. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what was your process then picking these photos? I mean, was it something you sat down and you did in a week's time, or was this like, was this something that like one day you thought, oh, I remember this image, let me go back and look at it, let me pull that. Was it like something that took time, or was it something that like you sat down and you like you focused in on it?
So what I did was, like I said, this was all during this certain time period. So I looked at all the photos that I had from those different shows and events in that time period, and automatically, like right away, there's always the favorites. And so like I started grabbing those, and what I'm thinking back like on how this came together, because it was really, there's probably 8 versions of this book. Because at first, like I started laying everything out just super random, and it felt that way. And I was like, all right, this isn't cool. And then some of the photos, I just kind of felt like, well, this would look good next to this photo, and this would look good with this photo. And then I started seeing things like, well, this would look good with this in the background. And so I started like figuring out, it was really a puzzle, the way everything started coming together like that. I knew I wanted these different looks and styles, but trying to piece that together and what should go where at first was, it like I said, there's numerous other versions that came before. And at first it started coming together in like a chronological order.
Right.
Where I was digging through my archives and just kind of like laying things out in order. And it stayed that way for a while. And it was a friend of mine, Sean from the Dream Lab in Milwaukee, where he was looking at the one of the earlier versions, and was like, well, I started putting the words to the pages, and he was like, this really jumps around though. He's like, it's something about it doesn't. He's like, I think you can like reorganize this and make it better, if you were to mix these up. He's like, if you're stuck on being chronological, then maybe you should do this instead. He was like, but he's like, I think you should think about it differently.
Mm.
And then I went home that night and I really sat with it and looked at it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to change the order of it. And so, yeah, it was like that for a long time. But as far as like choosing the photos, again, it was like there was certain photos that I really felt like would be strong, like just big on their own, and that were like some favorites of mine. There were certain photos that I really felt like worked perfectly with these lines from the poem. And I felt like if I was going to put these words with this photo, then it would have to be this way or that way. Mm. And I intentionally didn't put any words on Well, for the most part, at least. Actually, yeah, there's a couple of photos like that where I'm using like multiple photos on one page.
Okay.
There wasn't too many layouts where I used multiple photos on one page with words, and that was kind of intentional because I didn't want you to be looking at too much.
Right.
You know, I didn't want you to be fighting between looking at 5 photos and then words.
Yeah, and that's actually, I think that's the best way to look at it too. You were looking at it more than just like creating a book. You were looking at it like from a viewer's standpoint too. Then it sounds like.
Well, I've got a history with graphic design.
Okay.
I've been doing graphic design since like 2006. So creating balance and layouts and things like that, that's something that I'm familiar with. And so I really wanted to I really put those skills to work there.
Right.
And trying to figure out like what's going to feel good, what's going to not be too much,
Okay.
Yeah, and like back to the choosing photos again. There was favorites. There was things that just felt good together, like some of those background images. Like there's the one where it's got a light blue colored, teal colored '63 Impala on one page, and then on the other page it's got like it's not really a lowrider. It's got the big like 28s on it.
Yeah.
Whatever, and I think it's an Oldsmobile if I remember the car right.
Yeah,
but it's another
blue,
teal one.
or a teal blue, yeah.
And then the background's
Yep.
the black and white photo.
Yep.
That's Venice Beach. Like that's
Okay.
got nothing to do with lowriders.
Yeah, it's a considered a dunk then, right?
People that own dunks would probably argue with you on that. 'Cause
Okay.
I've heard that. Yeah, that's a little different thing.
Okay.
But either way, it's a car that I see at the car shows a lot. It's actually in a couple of photos in the book, and I really like that car a lot. So I wanted to use it anyways. It didn't really matter to me.
No, it's dope. Yeah, I'm glad you put it in there. I thought that to myself too. I was like, I don't know if they would consider this a lowrider.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
But it felt good in the layout.
Right.
And I remember looking at that. I knew I had a folder of photos that I was thinking of just as background images, and that black and white Venice one was one of those. And I remember I put it into the layout, and I started thinking about like what would go good with this. And I dropped a couple of photos on it, and then when I dropped that Impala on there, I was like, this color combination with this style, the way this photo is edited with the black and white, just looks perfect. And that's when I was like, okay, I need another one to match this. And that's when I thought about the other photo, and I was like, I threw it together, and I was like, this is perfect. So
That's awesome.
yeah, some of the photos I used just because they felt right with what was going on in the page. So
And you're talking about like combining the images with the words then too. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Man, that's a process.
the text, the text part took a lot, man, because for one, it was like I said, I had the first poem I got was from Eliana, which is the poem that's featured in the second half of the book. And
That's the smaller writing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's tighter put together. It's because there's 2 women in there, right? Mm-hmm. It's Becca or
no. Becca's the model.
Okay.
So like there's two poets, or well, they're writers, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if they really consider themselves poets, but they definitely have called these pieces poetry.
Okay.
And so there's Carolina Martinez, who's a friend of mine I met I met both of them in Chicago, but Caro is originally from the Chicago area. Ellie is actually from California. She grew up in the Bay Area and now lives in LA. And I met her in Chicago at an event too. She flew out there just to come check out an event. Her Caro's poem is at the front of the book, and that's the longer one.
Yeah.
And then Ellie's is at the back of the book, and hers is the shorter one. And it took a lot to like look at their poems and read them. I don't know how many times to kind of figure out like what the breaks are that. I mean, of course, like the way people write poetry is they have like their breaks in there, but it's like where can I break this to make this still make sense and not mess up their message and ruin that, and then also match it to a photo. So like I said, that was a tricky. That took a lot to figure out. Ellie's poem was the first one that I put in there, and originally it was more like in the middle of the book. and it was in like I said, the photos were still in a chronological order, and so the spacing of the words, like there'd be one line on this page, and then there'd be like maybe even 2, 3, 4 pages break where where before there's more words, and that part didn't necessarily feel right at first, and then like I threw that out and just really threw myself into the book, and I was like, okay, well, I know I want to use this one from Gato, and it felt right using hers first because hers was more like it felt like more being a kid, and then and then growing up in the culture and you know just falling into it, you know.
Did they write specifically for your book too, or was that something that they were like, you know, this is what I think would work for your book or anything like that?
So the way that went was I reached out. Well, I contacted each of them about writing a piece for it, and Ellie got back to me first. She had already well, she wrote that for it, and what I did was I knew I was gonna break up I wanted separation between each poem, and so I already had, like I said, there was already a version of the book at that time, and this was like over a year ago now, probably. And I sent them photos that were in that part of the book where I intended to originally put the poem. So I sent them a folder full of photos and was like, use these as inspiration. Um, I don't really have instructions other than you're a part of this community. Just like, you know, write from your heart, right? Write what you're inspired, what you see in these photos. Write what it feels like to be at the events. Write what your heart tells you. You know.
I think those are good guidelines to follow, especially with what you did with your book, and they really do match up with the photos and the way that they kind of describe everything. I mean, I sent you the one thing where it's like you know, like I'm seeing this new space or whatever. I'm seeing this new area, and it's like, you know, I'm like seeing it all with my eyes wide shut. And I just kind of like I just kept falling back to that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would read it and then I'd have to reread it and I'd reread it again, and I just was like to me, like that was like my favorite thing said in the book, because like I think it's like the most relatable thing for everybody who reads the book, because you know, it does feel like that. Life does feel like that. Like, you know, when you do see something for the first time, it is that feeling of like your eyes wide shut. Like you know, it's so unfamiliar. It's not like you're normal, and that to me was probably my favorite part of the writing in the book, and it just really hit home for some reason for me, which I really like. So,
Yeah, when I got the poems back from them, Ellie wrote something for this. Like she looked at the photos, and like I said, she's of this community. She's a part of it. She goes to the events on her own, and yeah, she just wrote straight from what she felt, and I love that she kind of took the stand the way she did, saying this is us. You're not invited.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that really, like, when I first read her poem, it was one of those things where I'm like, it was late at night. You know, I was just reading it, and I was just like, I just kept stopping and was like, oh my God, like she's just every line just made me just like, it just struck another chord with me. It was just like, oh, like you nailed it. And
she took it serious.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, she's of this community, and she's an artist, in she does photography and she writes, and she's very much an artist in her own. And so yeah, she just knew where to go with it.
Right.
and so that was a new poem written freshly for this. And then Gato's, from what I didn't realize this. I thought she wrote it for this, but I talked to her last week, and she said that one was something she had already started, and I don't know where she stopped or where she restarted it, but she said she had started it before I talked to her about this, and then like once she had let it sit for a while, and then once I asked her to do that, she revisited that poem and was like, this is good for this. This will work for this. Let me just finish this, continue writing what I was writing, and yeah, I think it'll work. And
It did work.
yeah, with
Absolutely.
hers, it was like it was like a yin and a yang between her and Ellie. I felt like, because Ellie's is such a strong, taking a stance. This is us. You're not invited.
Right.
You know, don't come play with us. This is our shit.
Right.
And like with Gato, it was more like a child, and seeing this for the first time and falling
Right.
in love with it and wanting to be a part of it. And it just really felt like me as a kid when I first opened up that Lowrider book, and was just like, what is this? You know, like, I want to be a part of this. I want to do this. And then, you know, eventually building bikes, getting into a car club, going to car shows like regularly, and, you know, just becoming a part of that community. It was, yeah, that really just described everything to me. So
It really does. The way that they both wrote, it really does. In a way, it all swirls together perfectly with your photos, and you do get a sense of like you said, especially she's like, you know, like, this is our culture, this is who we are, like, this is family, this is, and you do sense that, especially with the way that you carried the photos with that, and it just like by the time from when you start the book to when you end it with your photos and the writing, like, it really does take you on that journey of like kind of what they're saying, and then also like the photos are like, you know, like kind of there, like there's the one photo I think where there's just like houses in the background, like homes, and there's just people sitting. I mean, you can even see in some of the photos there's people sitting on like their balconies, just kind of like, you know, just, you know, like it's a normal day, and I and that I like that, because that's just like that if you know, I'm not a part of the culture, but if that's what the culture is, it's showing me like the right way to view it. You know, it's just like, it's not like it's, you know, it's glamorous, it's not anything like that. Like, no, like, this is our culture, and this is just who we are, and I think that really like stands out when it's, you know, tucked away in a neighborhood like that, and, you know, people are just walking around. I mean, that is, you're right. Yeah. Like, this is our culture. This is who we are.
I think what you're talking about, the photo, if I remember the one right, it was at Vault Gallery in Chicago, and Vault Gallery is kind of like, it's just like that. There's like a strip of like storefronts right over here. There's like a restaurant, brewery kind of thing over here, and then across the street it's just all houses, just residential. And so yeah, we kind of took over this little area that day. They had a photo gallery, or like an art gallery. I think it was more than photos that day, in the actual Vault Gallery, and then they just like took over this little area in front of the shop with just cars, and they put a car inside the gallery, and so yeah, that last photo where it's my homie Mago, and he's in his Monte Carlo, and he's got the Rider for Life plaque, and then Becca's standing there with him. That was inside that gallery that day.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
I thought about that. I was like, is that their garage, or
No,
like,
that
you
was
know, like,
that was inside the art
okay,
gallery.
yeah.
And
I love that photo, man.
yeah, I one thing that your brother told me when he looked at it was, he was like, your photos feel like candids of cars.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's so crazy that you can take like a candid photo of a car.
Right.
And I love that he said that. That just felt so good. And I mean, that's kind of the way I shoot. I'm very. I don't like to ask for things when I'm photographing.
Right.
I like to just walk in and leave things undisturbed, and just, you know, just try to capture everything as genuinely and authentically as possible. And so, yeah, all those things, I love to see all of that in the background of my photos. I love it to feel that way.
It definitely comes out. Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it too. I like that he was able to just think about it in his own way like that. Like, you know, like you took a picture of this, you know, this red Impala, you know, is that my...
Yeah, your phone's going on. Sorry.
So then, okay, well then kind of wrapping it up, what do you want to say about your book, and what, you know, like kind of where's your next direction with Lowriders and the culture itself?
Well, I gotta, there's something that I can't really talk too much about yet, that's in the works for next year. I don't want to it's like it's still early phases of
Yeah.
developing something new. So I don't want to talk too much on that, but I'm gonna continue this series. So Low is something that I started with the intention of being like, just my lens, my photos, my thing, and then just making this like a continuing like art piece. I'm gonna continue to shoot these cars just because it's what I'm into, it's what I do, and I got asked one time at a photo gallery that I had a couple of these photos in, where somebody asked if this is a photo project, and I'm like, nah, this is kind of just my life. Like I didn't know how to answer his question at first. I was just like, no, this is just what I do.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm going to continue this series just because I enjoy it. I love being in this community. I love being around these people. This is our culture. And so I want to continue to show it in my way and how I feel like, like I do it. So, yeah, it's good. This Low is going to continue to grow and develop in different ways. And I don't know what the second version looks like yet. I know I've got some stuff that I was going to throw into the first one that I ended up pulling out, and so maybe it starts with that. We'll see. I don't know. I got to look back at that stuff and see what it looked like again. I've got some more ideas for more merch and things like that I'm going to be putting out.
I need a T-shirt, man.
That's coming.
Yeah,
that's
I need a
coming.
T-shirt. Yeah.
This book, it was like, my job really takes up and pulls a lot of energy from me, and so I don't always have the energy to create on my own. And once I got some things out of the way, I freed up a little more time for myself. I jumped right into this book, and it was a big priority to just get the book done.
Yeah.
Because this has been sitting I've been trying to finish this for like 3 years.
Yeah, it's no easy task.
No,
sure.
no, and the second version won't take as long. I promise that. but yeah, my big goal was just get the book done. Don't worry about everything else. Everything else will fall into place.
Right.
Get the book done. And so, yeah, that was my priority. And, yeah, there's more on the way.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it all, man.
There's T-shirts and things like that coming. Yeah, I kind of want to tell some of these other things, but I can't.
No, hold on. Everybody gotta wait, man. Yeah, keep these people waiting, because
I guess one of the big things that I'm planning to do too is more travel. I've gotten around more, like, trips to California, trip to New Mexico, and I've met more people out there, and so I definitely want to travel more and just get different perspectives from different places, and just different cars and different people, So that'll expect that the next couple of versions of Low will have a bigger variety of vehicles and just a bigger variety of locations. That's one of the big things. And then putting out more merch in more ways. Like, I just ordered a whole bunch of prints last night, and so I'll be expanding on things like that I offer.
Perfect.
So
I'm looking to get a print and hang it up in my house. So whenever you get that stuff going,
yeah,
I'll be in line. I am in line. I'm waiting.
Yeah. There's the series of 4 prints from the book.
Okay.
That I only used the ones where I was like playing with the background and then images on top, layering images. I only used those 4 of them that I used, my 4 favorite ones that I used. And so those are available in a limited series of just 25 prints each.
Oh, those are those the ones that just come with the book, or are those like you can buy those outside of the book? Like, it's not exclusive with the book in print.
No, you could buy them on their own.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
You don't have to buy the book to get the prints.
Oh, I thought you did.
You can just buy the prints if you just
okay.
want the prints. That's fine. Most people want the book, but for those that like yourselves or myself, like, if I saw somebody else putting this out, I would be wanting the prints with it.
Yeah.
But that's just me and how I am. So that's available. There's gonna be more prints available. Yeah, that's it, man. Just trying to expand on the merch and expand on the series. So outside of that, just building my photography business, I guess.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
I dig it, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
I appreciate
Hell yeah.
the time to sit and talk, man.
Hell yeah.
It's always good to
Appreciate it.
do this kind of thing. And
Yeah.
talk with other like-minded people. So
Might be time to expand on even just doing this.
yeah, definitely want to do more of this.
Yeah, this is tight.
So thanks, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
All right.